Hello and welcome to Liberty Nation's LNTV. Well, they're privatizing public roads in Virginia. Strange but true. Here to join us on this and shed some light on the subject is Liberty Nation's legal affairs editor, Mr. Scott D. Cosenza. Welcome, Scott.
And Virginia resident. Hi, Mark.
Oh, of course, and Virginia residents.
I'm a victim survivor of the policies we're about to talk about.
You know, I don't want to re-victimize you by going through this,
Right.
Especially your poor door area. But so what is going on in Virginia, Scott?
Well, Virginia has taken it upon itself to restrict road access to certain residents of those areas. They put up signs that say you can't turn right or left here on certain hours. This is in response, Mark, to people who are trying to get around traffic, which is notoriously bad in this area and has become notoriously more expensive with the addition of more and more toll roads instead of free travel, which is what we had mostly previously in the state.
So, I mean, the first question is, from a legal perspective, is it legal?
Well, that's a good question. I hope the answer is no. The answer is we don't know yet because it hasn't been brought to its terminus in terms of appellate courts. But there are challenges underway in other states that suggest this may be an unconstitutional restriction on the right to travel. If I'm not allowed to make a right turn onto a street, but somebody who lives there is, you can see how that might present a problem. I hope that the court eventually rules that this is an unconstitutional restriction on travel because it seems to me blatantly so on its face, but we're going to have to wait and see.
I foresee issues if this does come through. I foresee issues with enforcing this. I mean, what are people going to do? They're going to have to create records of persistent offenders, which will no doubt have to be compiled and created by the residents of that street who happen to notice a similar car passing through at regular times. And then, of course, that person would then have to justify their reason for being there. In terms of enforcement, this just seems ludicrous, Scott.
It is a mess of enforcement. It's truly a mess, Mark. I think that how it will work is the police officers who are no doubt going to be posted in these areas in order to collect fines for the various government agencies they represent will probably have license plate readers, which will automatically tell them where that vehicle is registered, and then be able to pull people over if it's not registered in that certain zone. It requires a bit of sophisticated analysis, and I think that what it will ultimately yield is people being pulled over for no other reason than the police thought they didn't have the right under this new signage to make a turn.
An odd question here, but in the UK, roads are paid for from the public purse. And of course, there's an added levy of what we call road tax that each car must pay each year for permission to use the roads, which is strange, seeing as you're paying for permission to use something that you paid for as a taxpayer. How does this work in the US, and specifically in Virginia?
So in the United States and in Virginia, which is typical, if you buy a car, you have to pay sales tax on that car. But then when you register it, you also have to pay a registration fee, which is often assessed either annually or every few years, depending. And that's a tax that's paid to the state. There's also other stickers. I think I have to have 6 stickers on my car, Mark. Each one of them is, of course, just another tax. It's not about, they call it a safety something or other, but it's just about a different tax to different authorities. And then we have gas taxes. So petrol for you, Mark. Anytime you put gas in your car, some portion of the money that you pay goes to the state. Every state has some gas tax, and Virginia adds its own.
Okay, so I mean, is this, am I right in thinking this is something similar to congestion pricing?
Well, I think the main difference between this and congestion pricing is congestion pricing just discriminates against the poor. But everybody could pay. I mean, I don't mean that they have the ability to pay. I mean, if they had the funds and they wished to pay. And so for people who don't know, congestion pricing, I think is it underway now in London, Mark?
Yeah, we have, it's called a congestion zone.
So this is something that's been proposed in the United States. I know it's been proposed in New York City, for example, but what it would mean is that you cannot enter the entire zone or city without paying a sort of a tax or fee because it's so congested. and that's congestion pricing. I don't think it's been implemented anywhere successfully in the United States yet, but the main difference is you cannot pay for this privilege. So let's say you lived one house beyond where the quote unquote zone of approval would be. So you want to make a right turn onto Main Street, and the powers that be say only people who live on Main Street can make that turn. Well, what if you live one house in from Main Street, but that's the most convenient way for you to access your house? You can't pay for the privilege. So it just discriminates against everybody who's not within the geographical area with which they define that particular zone of allowed travel to be.
And final question, Scott. Will this actually become a reality? Yay or nay?
Mark, there's a street within shooting distance of where I'm sitting right now that has one of these signs up. So it's happening. Now, whether or not it'll continue to last past the court challenge, we're just going to have to wait and see.
All right, we'll keep an eye open for it, Scott. Many thanks to you for being here.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks to you at home.
Hi, folks. Lisa K. Donner here, editor-in-chief of LibertyNation.com. We hope you enjoyed watching this video, maybe even learned a thing or two. If so, please take a moment and subscribe to our YouTube channel right down there in the corner. Thanks so much.